Coming up on Network Africa, protests continue for the 8th day in Nigeria, with youths demanding an end to police brutality in the country. Ugandan security forces raid the party offices of presidential aspirant Bobi Wine. Plus, several people have been killed in a series of attacks targeted at civilians and the army in Mali. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Once again, the EndSARS protesters have blocked the Lagos-Ibadan expressway here in Nigeria. They are insisting that their action is to drive home their demand for the end to police brutality. They are also asking for the scrapping of the newly formed Special Weapons and Tactics team and that the Inspector General of Police resign his position. Earlier, the protesters had turned up at Alausa, the seat of the Lagos state government, with musical instruments fully set up and singing to different tunes. Another group also gathered at the Lekki toll gate.
For 8 days running, protesters demanding for an end to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad are still on the streets and major highways of Lagos State and are now causing heavy gridlock. Just like on Tuesday, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is on a standstill, spilling into the Old Gate area, affecting free vehicular movement. The Alausa axis is also not spared, as motorists are unable to get to their various destinations. Reacting to the situation on Channels Television earlier today, the LASTMA boss, Olajide Oduyoye, says his officials are doing what they can to ensure free flow of traffic.
Protesters have come, they've blocked the Alausa axis. They've blocked it by the Magodo area. If you cannot turn back using CMD road and you cannot do a U-turn in the proper manner to go back to 7-Up, then you're really not going anywhere. So, I mean, this is not a situation where it's not a normal situation where we begin to think about one way. The biggest problem is when you take one way anyway, you'll be stuck and you get stuck with other drivers.
Why are we here? And the Lekki toll gate has again been barricaded by the protesters, blocking traffic and chanting their demands, saying the government has not done enough and what the country needs now is a complete change of the security system.
If he's still alive, he should come out. We don't want SWAT, we don't want SARS.
Well, Sudan's Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has sacked the governor of the Eastern Kassala province barely 3 months after he appointed him. Now, Governor Saleh Ahmed's appointment sparked ethnic protests in the province that barred him from reporting to work. He had to stay in the country's capital, Khartoum, as protesters from the rival Beja community demonstrated for weeks. The governor is from the Beni Am community. Now, the protest also turned deadly, with several people reported to have died. In Uganda, the party offices of presidential aspirant Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, have been raided by dozens of armed soldiers and police officers. Important documents were reportedly taken from the premises, as well as red military-style berets and overalls. In September last year, the government designated the red beret worn by Bobi Wine and his supporters as military uniforms, meaning anyone deemed to be possessing or wearing them illegally could be be prosecuted. Bobi Wine has said state operatives are targeting him and his party as they prepare to challenge President Yoweri Museveni in the general election in early 2021. But the police spokesperson Fred Egenga insists the operation is not politically motivated. Other stories: dozens of civilians and soldiers have been killed in a series of attacks in Mali. Two of the attacks targeted the army, and while one was towards the civilians. Now, a statement from the army says a base in Sukura near the border with Burkina Faso was the first to be attacked. Reports also say at least 9 soldiers died in this attack. Meanwhile, officials say a vehicle transporting civilians to Bankas was also attacked, leaving at least 12 civilians dead. Now, this is the first time the country has experienced such a deadly attack since the coup on August the 18th. Somalia spy agency, National Intelligence and Security Agency NISA, says it has seized 79 tons of sulfuric acid smuggled into the country for use by al-Shabaab militants to make explosives. The agency adds that investigations are ongoing and the suspects will be arraigned later in court. Now, the announcement comes as Somalia marks the 3rd anniversary of the October 14, 2017 bombing in the capital Mogadishu that killed at least 600 people. Al-Shabaab did not claim responsibility for that attack, although it frequently stages attacks in the capital. To some stories from coronavirus. Now, Kenya's health ministry has warned school administrators against spraying students with disinfectants as part of measures to curb the spread of coronavirus. This follows a video from showing final year students in primary and secondary schools who resumed learning on Monday who were queuing to be sprayed. That was posted on Twitter by a local newspaper. Now, this video caused massive outrage in the country. The World Health Organization guidelines does not recommend the spraying of individuals as it is harmful to their health. Meanwhile, as the new school year begins in Libya amid the coronavirus pandemic, some schools are introducing outdoor classrooms, while other families have equipped their living rooms for homeschooling. With the number of cases surging unhindered across the North African country, schools are trying different tactics to provide learning to students.
Their young lives are already disrupted by war. Libyan school children face even bigger obstacles to their education during the global pandemic than young people elsewhere. As a result of cases soaring in the country, schools are trying divergent ways from opening outside to seeking donations for extra disinfectants and face masks to allow teaching indoors. University professor Ahmed Falak is homeschooling 2 children aged 10 and 8 and his 2 nephews aged 12 and 10.
What
will these students do if there's a new wave of coronavirus? They will miss 2 years of their education. This is a big problem for parents and the students. We will have a generation of students with weak education.
However, even those who have had no teaching for 6 months or much prospect of it during the rest of the year will have to pass an exam in order to progress to the next grade, the authorities have said.
Students did not study anything. We did not teach anything for the students to learn. This is not a solution. Also, the decisions by the Ministry of Education are random and are not studied well.
Libya now has more than 41,000 cases of the coronavirus, with the United Nations saying it's spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, fighting in the country persists. About 200 schools are closed, depriving more than 200,000 children of their schooling.
community of Somali refugees is standing together with their South African neighbors to help people struggling to make a living during this COVID-19 pandemic. The group launched a care and campaign as the national lockdown began in late March to help people who were likely to struggle under the strict stay-at-home conditions. They started by distributing masks, hand sanitizers and food parcels to residents of informal settlements in Pretoria and Johannesburg, then moved on to other parts of the country.
Saeed fled Somalia's civil war as a 17-year-old back in 1991. In the years since, he has built a successful career as a banker and is part of a community of Somali business people. Coronavirus has offered an opportunity to give back.
This very difficult time where the pandemic and the COVID-19 unfortunately has locked down many economies, and many economies are really suffering as a result.
Saeed has helped support 600 families during a COVID-19 lockdown, donating food, masks and sanitizer from the community.
We are struggling to buy food, and mostly the money that we get is not enough to cover all the expenses that we have in the house.
The group launched a care and campaign as the national lockdown began in late March to help people who were likely to struggle under the strict stay-at-home conditions in South Africa. Saeed is at the heart of this operation, fueled by memories of his flights from Somalia and the kindness he experienced when he arrived in South Africa. Refugees and asylum seekers needing help to buy food and pay rent inundated the toll-free helpline of the UN Refugee Agency in the lockdown's first week.
You know what? Here are people who welcome us in their country and who host us in their country. The Somali businesses has got united to assist the local host community, as well as even some of the immigrants and refugees who are living in South Africa.
By the end of May, over 3,000 people had called, and over 95% of them had lost their source of income and faced hunger or eviction.
We need to go on a break. Still ahead on Network Africa. Celebrating the renowned writer and poet, Professor John Pepe Clark, who died at the age of 85. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Renowned Nigerian poet and playwright John Pepe Clark has died at the age of 85. His family says the literary icon died on Tuesday in a hospital in Lagos where he had been receiving treatment. He was popular for his poems Abiku and Night Rain, which were compulsory reading for students of English literature across Africa at different points in time. Now let's speak more on the legacy of Professor J.P. Clark. Joining us now is the co-founder of the Lagos Book and Art Festival, German Anikulapo. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa. Now, what would you say is the one thing that the world will miss about John Pepe Clark?
Well, I think one thing we will miss is the fact that we've lost a library. You know what we say in Africa, that when you lose an older fellow, a library is born. But when you lose a J.P. Clark, you've really lost a whole resource. A whole library is gone. You know, as you know, there were just about 3 of them that we normally look up to as the father of contemporary Nigerian literature. And Achebe is gone, and now it's J.P. Clark. And we're praying that the other one that I don't want to mention now will live very long. But we miss it.
It is often said that if you want to, yes, I was saying it's often said that if you want to hide something in Nigeria, you put it in a book because Nigerians do not read. How then can the country preserve his legacies?
Well, the way we can preserve his legacy is to return history into our educational curriculum and to make sure that literature becomes a major subject of study in our school. It's a shame that actually we have all these people around us JP Clark just left. Shoyinka is still around. We still have quite a lot of our fathers in literature, Femi Oshofison, Niyo Shundare, Uluoba Femi, quite a lot of them. But we're not milking enough of them, even though we have them teaching in the university and the rest of them. But what are they, who is really talking to them? There are no documentations on them. Because through documents, we know that our young people like to meet us in the visual world. That means through film, documentary, and the rest of them. If you're able to document all these our older folks, you may be able to bring the young people to appreciate what they have done. Instead of expecting them to just go and read their long text. The texts are not even available. Somebody was asking me about JP Clark's book. I have some of them, but where are they? They are supposed to be in bookshops. They are not in bookshops. So you have to go and look for the publishers to get a copy of the book. This book should be available. They should become like a national literature. I mean, go to Kenya and South Africa. They are very good at that. Even Zimbabwe, they use the works of the eminent writers as teaching materials for their young people, not even in the formal school. They bring the young people together in some kind of informal setting, and they use the wisdom of some of these our older fellows to our fathers, we call them our ancestors in literature, to teach their young ones. Look, what JP Clark has contributed to Ijaw literature alone is enough to make sure that the entire Ijaw nation, the whole of the South nation, the whole of the southern Nigeria, even northern Nigeria, that they could learn a lot from him. But if you didn't do this for Gabriel Okara, who died in his 90s, I mean, what will we do for JP Clark? We have the opportunity now to bring JP Clark into the consciousness of our young people. I think the time is very right now.
Yes, sir. Speaking about young people, what lessons can you say young and aspiring authors can learn from his life?
Well, there's a lot they can learn from his writing. I don't know if there's much they can learn about his life. JP Clark himself was a very controversial character. He had problems with a lot of people. And because he wasn't broken nonsense, he would not brook nonsense. He was a no-nonsense person because he was very sure of his craft. But imagine at the University of Lagos there, he actually started the department. Let's give that to him. Eventually, they got to name a building that was built by the Delta State government on it. But how many people, if you go to that building now, even though it's been converted into a department of diaspora studies or so, the library of JP Clark ought to reside in that place, where young people can go and do their research there. And so what I would advise them to do is to get their hand on JP Clark's works. Since he died yesterday, I've been going over 4 of his books that I've been reading them over and over. I'm still confused about the passing of JP Clark, because I'm known to be one of his literary children, and I've been reading all his work, and I'm asking myself, how come I never really sat down with this man and really try to milk his, ask him a lot of questions about what he was trying to say to us. A lot of things that JP Clark said are the things that are happening now. There's a particular poem I would have loved to read, but I don't have the book with me here, where it was saying that nothing ever changes in Nigeria, and nothing may ever change if you are not careful. I think the title is Here Nothing Changes. It's predicting exactly what is happening now with all the SARS people, the young people on the street, the fact that they talk to their president, the president does not listen, they talk to their governor, he's threatening to that they cannot go on, they will have no right to do a protest. JP Clark wrote a play called The Raft. Please, everybody should go and check The Raft. He was predicting that if we are not careful, Nigeria will break into pieces. That we are in a raft. And if all of us are not paddling the raft in the same direction, if you're trying to paddle to the right, and others are going to the back, the whole country will just crash. That, for me, is emblematic of a restructuring. And if you are not listening to that, who are we going to listen to? So I'll tell the young people to go and sit down and read more about JP Clark.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mr. Jaman Anikulapo, the co-founder of the Lagos Book and Art Festival. Thank you for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, one of the great figures from the golden age of Egyptian cinema, Mahmoud Yassin, has also died at the age of 79. Born in Port Said in 1942, Mahmoud Yassin graduated in law before taking up an acting career in Egyptian theater in the late 1960s. He went on to play in more than 150 films and 60 television series, establishing himself as a celebrity in the Arab world. Well, a Congolese activist has been fined for stealing an African artifact from a museum in France. Emery Diabanza says he took the 19th century Chadian funeral staff from the Kwai Branly Museum in June as part of a protest against colonial era plundering. He reportedly intends to appeal against the €1,000 fine. And that's all on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.